It is a town, a
Yes.
kilometer underground. But it was scary, it was new. I was by far one of the weakest programmers there at the time. This is a bit more of a comical thing. I love napping. I can nap anytime, anywhere. I love how I feel after a good nap.
Yeah.
And I always thought it'd be fun to write a little bit of a nap guide. How to nap anywhere, anytime.
We listen and we don't judge.
Exactly. Just up until a few months ago, all the mines had better internet than I have in my house.
Have you ever felt uncertain in your career?
For a while, I actually left the mining industry. Full transparency, I had a near miss.
Hey guys, welcome back to this podcast at It's K to Be Karen, and today you have me, Karen. We have a very special and exciting guest, and his name is Aaron. He's an electrical engineer and he's graduated from the Lakehead University. And before I say any further, I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Aaron. To introduce myself, let's see. I am an engineer, as Karen said, but I am an adventurer, an explorer, a book reader, a electronic guru, a motorcycle enthusiast, lots of things. But I think today we're going to deep dive into the engineering aspect of my career and identity and go from there.
I love that. That was a very good introduction. I think that's the best introduction we've ever had so far. So that says a lot about this podcast. Okay, before we actually delve into conversations, we're going to do a rapid fire. So how this rapid fire works is I'll ask you 5 questions and then you can ask me 5. We can do it in 2 ways. I could ask you first and you can ask me after, or we can do it alternating. So I ask you one and then you ask me one after. What do you prefer?
I think you do 5 and then I'll do 5.
Okay, and it has to be very rapid. Your answers has to be a word or in a sentence max. No explanations.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
Okay, first question. If you had to go for an adventurous sport, what would that be?
Scuba diving.
Okay. What is your 1940s hobbies and interests?
Ooh, restoring a 1940 Dodge Deluxe with my father.
Nice. If you had to go for a summer vacation, where would that be?
Ooh, summer vacation.
Can't think.
Maldives.
Okay. If you didn't study engineering, what would it be?
Archaeologist.
Oh, very deep. Okay, I won't ask you anything on that. Favorite shoe color?
Orange.
Orange. Okay.
Love the bright shoes.
Okay, we ain't judging. We listen and we don't judge.
Exactly.
Love that. Okay, your turn.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Favorite season?
Fall.
If you could have a coffee with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead what?
Dead or alive.
Dead or alive?
Yeah.
Oh my. Alive?
No! Oh! You could choose anyone from history, dead or alive.
Yeah, pick a person. Okay. And Frank. I think that'd be very interesting. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Favorite dinosaur?
T-Rex.
Nice. Good choice. Favorite dessert?
Tiramisu. All-time favorite.
Oh.
If you don't like tiramisu, you're missing out
Who
on
doesn't?
life. Who doesn't? If you don't like tiramisu, we can't be friends. We can't be friends. Yeah, love that. I love the rapid fire part of this. We're going to delve into a little bit to understand more about Aaron and how he got into engineering. So we'll start from there. So I know you have studied electrical engineering, so maybe I should start from that. What made you get into engineering in the first place, and how did you decide to get into electrical engineering?
I think it goes all the way back to high school. In my high school, we were very fortunate. We had electrical classes and computer science classes. So those really got me into the technical aspect of the sciences. And then I realized I'm pretty darn good at this. And then in grade 12, there was a program called the workplace or work career placement, something like this. So for a few hours a week, you could work with a company in my town. And I decided to work as an electrician. So I actually worked for them for the entire grade 12 school year and the first summer out of high school. And that really just sparked my interest in electrical, the theory behind it. But I quickly realized, hey, I want to know more. Why does this light actually turn on when I flick the switch? What's actually happening? So I decided to do a diploma course at SciAS, which is now Sask Poly.
Yeah.
So I did a 2-year diploma course, and that really just built the foundation of my love of electronics.
Love that for you. When you were as you were getting older, let's say in your teenage years, in your childhood life, did you ever see early signs that showed that you were more of a science person rather than a humanity person? or early signs of you enjoying like problem solving stuff and technical stuff?
I think there's two things that really stand out when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I was always very good with math and numbers.
Yeah.
That was my bread and butter. I remember being in elementary school doing the Mad Minutes, and I was one of the first ones always done. I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Also, when I grew up, my mom owned a computer business. So this is in a small town in the early 2000s. So it's pretty cutting edge.
That's crazy.
But that meant I had a lot of exposure to the best technology at the time. And I was helping mom install software, fix computers, things like this.
Yeah.
So I think between working with mom on the computers and my love of math, that really just sparked the direction of going towards the sciences versus, as you said, the humanities or social sciences.
You did say you were a book lover.
I am.
So did you ever, like outside of the engineering realm of your education, did you ever do something to cultivate that passion of book reading or writing a book or, I don't know, anything like that?
I did have a passion for a few years to write a book. That was going to be my COVID project, because during COVID, I was actually unemployed for a while. So I thought, what can I do with my free time?
Yeah.
But a single phone call later, and then I was working again and been on busy street ever since.
You're a popular person. That says a lot. If you were
keep
to,
busy.
if you were to write a book, like what would you write it on actually?
So there's two things that I thought would be very fun to write about. First is my love of motorcycles. I've done some amazing trips across the country in different places around the world. I thought that'd be a very fun thing to write about.
Yeah.
The other thing, this is a bit more of a comical thing. I love napping. I can nap anytime, anywhere. I love how I feel after a good nap.
Yeah.
And I always thought it'd be fun to write a little bit of a nap guide. How to nap anywhere, anytime.
I love that. I'm sure people would love to read that.
Very diverse books, but those were my two thoughts.
How far did you get into writing your book though?
Not
far.
very far.
Not
As
very
I mentioned,
far.
I was only unemployed
Right.
for a few months at COVID, and then, like I said, I got a phone call.
Right. I know you've worked in Potash a little bit, right? What made you get into mining, right? Because you're an electrical engineer. I'm sure there's so many fields you can pivot to. How did you decide to go into the mining industry?
Well, let's go back a little bit. So I graduated with a diploma in electronic systems engineering technology. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
And after that program, I landed a technologist position at a local mining company. This company makes mining equipment. So I had a good amount of exposure there for about 3 years. But as before, I found myself thinking, why does this work a certain way? I was doing some programming, doing controller tuning. And I was like, okay, I can put in these numbers, but what do these numbers really represent? I didn't understand it, and I wanted to. So at that point, I realized, hey, you know what? I can only do so much as a technologist. Let's go learn a bit more and upgrade my education to a degree.
Love that.
So that is when I went to Thunder Bay to study at Lakehead, and I earned my degree in electrical engineering. And then I came back to Saskatchewan, and I found a job out in Humboldt, doing a lot of very unique projects ranging from giant Arctic test chambers to military equipment and mining equipment. So now I've had 2 jobs in the mining realm.
Right.
And after a few years with this company in Humboldt, I realized I really like the mining industry. It's so interesting, it's fascinating, it's a whole nother world beneath us. So that is when I decided to apply at Allen, and I got the position there.
I love that. I think that's such a good point. I feel like not just the newer generation, but I think just a lot of people, if they don't understand something, they don't cultivate that curiosity. And the fact that you've decided to go back to school after working and realizing that you wanted to do something more with your education, I think that says a lot, right? Like you have a curious mind. Do you think having a curious mind is important for every engineer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think curiosity is important not just for engineering, but for life.
Right.
Without curiosity, I feel like there's less desire to learn.
Right.
And in my opinion, those are 2 of my favorite things. I want to learn everything. I want to know how everything works. Why is this doing that? Because knowledge is essentially power. And the more you learn, the more opportunities you have.
Very true.
And with those opportunities, you can do a lot of amazing things in this world.
I agree very much so. Yeah. When you first got into the mining industry, was there something that surprised you or something that was like out of the box for you and you're like, wow, this is interesting?
The biggest shock I had when starting my career in the mining industry was the very first time I went underground. I didn't realize how big it was. It is a town, a kilometer underground.
Yeah.
Some of these mine sites have 200 plus people underground at any time. They have equipment that's 50 tons in weight, that is 400 feet long, that can move automatically. They have shops to restore all the equipment. I laugh, actually, just up until a few months ago, all the mines had better internet than I have in my house.
That's funny.
They had fiber
Yeah.
to the furthest point in the mines, and these mines can be like 30 kilometers long. So it's another world. So when I first went underground, that was the thing that caught me the most off guard, is just how vast and expansive it is. It sticks in your mind.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people ask me, Aaron, how can you relate to it? Can you explain to me? And I say, I can't. Because in my life, I've seen and done a lot of amazing things, but I have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
It's such a unique experience, especially the potash mines of Saskatchewan. For their size alone, it's a very remarkable experience.
I know you've done a little bit in automation. Maybe I should ask, like, how did you decide to go into the automation specialization in mining, right? Because I think that's a revolving area for a lot of mining companies. So what made you specialize in automation?
The honest answer is I kind of fell into it.
Perfect. We love that.
As I mentioned earlier, I really love technology. I love using it. And I had an opportunity to work at one of the local potash sites.
Right.
Now, automation in potash mines has always been around.
Right.
But in the last 5 to 10 years, the technology's changed at such a rate that we can do things people could only dream of 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
So there's a big drive in the industry right now to automate technology, to automate the equipment. So when I worked at this potash site, there was just an ask. Can we automate this? Can we make this equipment run by itself?
Yeah.
So I was part of a small team at a time. There was 3 of us.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And our single objective essentially was make this equipment run automatically.
Right. Yeah.
We did not really have a scope. We didn't really know how to approach it. So what was fun is we had a lot of R&D to do because it hadn't really been done.
Right.
So we put our minds together, came up with some amazing solutions, and I just fell in love with it. And I ended up doing that specifically within the potash industry for about 6 years.
Wow. Do you think that's like an evolving field in the mining industry, and not just in the mining industry, but like any other industries that we have out there in the world?
It is definitely an evolving part of the industry. Like I said, the technology is getting better, but people also have to be more competitive. Companies have to be more competitive.
Yeah.
So what can you do to increase your productivity from your equipment? How can you make it run longer, more efficient, have more uptime, have more availability?
Yeah.
The simple answer is technology.
Right.
But you also need to have the processes in place for the technology, and you have to have the right culture and the people. That was one of our hardest challenges, actually, was getting the buy-in from the people, because people didn't understand it. They didn't know what we're doing. There were concerns about job displacements. These were all very real concerns. So it took some time, but like I said, industry is changing. And I think not only the potash mining industry, but other mining industries in general are starting to automate their equipment to be more competitive in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think, like, even the potash or any mining industry, like you said, it's always ever changing, right? Now, not only looking at the automation side of things, but really just any kind of technology adoptions that a lot of mining companies are now uptaking. What do you think are essential skills that engineers need in today's world? And maybe that could be just from your experience, just from the exposure that you have. What do you think that might be? That can be a very tough question.
That is a tough question.
Yeah.
But you know what I think the best skill an engineer can have with respect to this? Social skills.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, people.
Right.
Being able to communicate properly to stakeholders, other tradespeople like electricians, mechanics, operators, that is so crucial.
Yeah.
You know, I have learned more in the past 6 years from operators and tradespeople than other engineers. Because let me paint a picture for you. Say someone comes to you and says, Karen, I want to make this equipment run automatically. And you don't know how this equipment's supposed to run.
Right.
Who are you going to talk to?
The operator actually running and operating the system?
100%.
Yeah.
Because we all know when you see manuals, you read, oh, it should work this way. Sometimes it doesn't. But operators know how to make the machine work. They know all the little quirks.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time with them, and being able to communicate with them and understand what they're telling me
Right.
was crucial in the succession of these projects.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the biggest things engineers should really focus on. Out of university, we all know we can be taught. We've proven it. We have a piece of paper that says we can learn technical things.
Right.
Now I think we need to put that much effort into the social side of it.
Right. I agree with you because I think in a lot of mining companies, even when we look at technology like machine learning, artificial intelligence, we're saying we want to integrate these things, but have we actually spoken to those operators that are utilizing those machines? Do we know what the pain points are? Do we know what their needs are and their asks are? So I think that's a very good point. I think communication, really communicating those needs, understanding what's the issues and not just picturing what we think an issue is.
If you want a recipe for failure, what you do is you give an operator something that's this is what you need, where they have no input or feedback.
Right.
I can have the best piece of software, best piece of code in the world, but if an operator doesn't want to use it or can't use it, and it just sits there, well, the project wasn't a success.
That's true. Yeah, as long as it's not being applied, as long as it's not being used, that doesn't define success, right? Like it can't be successful with that, right? I agree with you. In your career, because you've done so much work, you've had so much experience, what do you think are some pivotal moments in your career? And that could be as in moments that has changed you personally, professionally, socially. You can pick.
Ooh, that's a tough one to narrow it down. One point, which is actually going to a little against what we're talking about here. For a while, I actually left the mining industry. Full transparency, I had a near miss. What does that mean? I was in a position where I could have been seriously injured.
Oh, okay.
So at that point, I decided to actually take a step back. But what was really cool about this is there was a small company in Saskatoon that was looking for a software developer, a programmer. This was something I hadn't done before, but it's something I was interested in. So I decided to kind of take my career and do a bit of a 90-degree turn and just try something different.
Right.
And I did that for about a year and a half, and I learned a lot of things. But it was scary. It was new. I was by far one of the weakest programmers there at the time. But you learn, right? So I left my comfort zone of heavy industry of mining, and I went and did something totally different. So I learned a lot with that. The other big moment in my career has been fairly recently with the current company I am at. I've transitioned from a technical role to a manager role. So thank you. I'm managing the team in Saskatoon here. We have about 12 people, managing all the clients in Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
I love that.
So these are things I haven't been trained to do, but I'm learning.
Right.
And it's tough, but it's new and exciting, and it's rewarding. Working with people, giving people the tools and the confidence they need to succeed, that's been fun. So it's been a big changing.
Do you ever feel like unknown events in our lives help us discover ourselves better and we actually learn about our passions more?
Yes. Let's use COVID as an example.
Right.
So
Yeah.
at the start of COVID, I was actually overseas living I was in Egypt at the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a long story. Don't think we have time to really get into that right now.
Okay.
But what happened is Justin Trudeau at the time, he said, hey, everyone abroad, come home. Okay. So I came home and I had no job. So I thought, what am I going to do with all my spare time?
Right.
At the time, how old was I? In my late 20s. And I thought, how many other opportunities in my life am I going to have time and some money to do essentially whatever the heck I want? So what was nice is I just got on my very old motorcycle and I went on a very, very long motorcycle trip to the Maritimes.
Oh.
So when you talk about kind of finding yourself,
Right.
if there's one way to find yourself, go sit on a motorcycle with your own thoughts for about 7,000 kilometers.
Right.
And you'll learn a lot about yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And when I came back, I really felt like I understood myself a lot better. I understood the chaos that the world was in, why people were acting certain ways, why people were feeling divided.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me mature and learn in a way I don't know if I would have otherwise if I was working or busy doing other things.
Right. I know COVID was a time where a lot of people lost their loved ones. It was a very sad time for the world, I feel. But also at the same time, if we were to have like a positive outlook towards the situation, I think it gave a lot of people the break they needed. the break to learn themselves a little bit more, the break that they needed to spend time with their families, to reassess their career pathways, to reassess what they wanted to do in life. I think when you have a moment of peace with yourself and just a moment of a quiet room or like a space with just yourself, you learn a lot about yourself.
I could not agree more.
Yeah, I think so too. Tell us a little bit about your engineering role, not necessarily about the company you're working in, but what does your day-to-day role look like as an engineer?
So as I mentioned, I'm at a transition point in my career, going from technical to managerial, and I'm still in this transition. It's a very long and slow transition. That's what happens when you have clients that really like working with you.
Right.
So my day-to-day varies. Some days I still do a lot of technical work. So I still do programming and data analysis for automatic mining equipment, seeing what I can do to make this equipment run better, more efficient, etc.
Yeah.
But the managerial side is a little more interesting. So I am a early riser. I am up at 5 every day.
Wow.
I'm in the office at 6. I love it. The morning's quiet and peaceful.
Yeah.
And the first hour is always just going through messages and emails, quickly responding to that.
Right.
But then you'll typically have a few meetings throughout the day, whether it's with clients, internal people for, say, resource planning, project planning, project updates, etc. But then what I do is I have quite a few cadence calls a day. I think it's so important that I communicate with all my team members. And some of them aren't in the office all the time. So quite often I have what I call cadence calls, just to chat with someone, see how they're doing, see what I can do to make their lives a little easier, make their projects go better, reduce friction any way I can. And then I start to do more of the managerial duties in the afternoon that are, say, creating quotes, project status updates, things like risk assessments, project charters, bill of materials, or cadence calls with clients. So that's an average day when I'm not doing the technical role of engineering.
Right.
So I've been in this managerial spot for about a year, and I recently got some feedback on, I'll say, something I said that I probably shouldn't have said or in a certain way in front of a group of people.
Right.
It was just taken a little wrong. I was like, oh, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
So it's those moments, okay, I learned I need to convey my messages better.
Yeah. But that's the whole point, right? Like if you're in a job, you want to learn, you want to evolve, and you get those feedback and you improve on them.
The best thing I have those with my team, I say, hey, anytime I do something or say something that you don't necessarily agree with, you don't understand, just let me know.
Yeah.
I need some feedback as much as you need feedback, because we're all learning together.
Transparency.
Totally agree.
That's what we love.
And I think most, call them workplace issues that start, they're usually something small. And I think if you can nip it in the bud, have that first conversation, life is so much easier.
Yeah, and you eliminate half of the problems that you could potentially have, right? So
Agree.
yeah. What do you think are the most rewarding and challenging parts of your job?
It's funny, it's the same word. People.
People.
As I mentioned, I love empowering people. I think it's so amazing when I have someone on my team and they just crush a project. They execute it flawlessly. It's a high quality, it's under budget, delivered before scheduled due date. I think that's so cool. And to see people learn and grow as well. As I said, I've been at my company now for about 5.5 years, and I'm the oldest employee in Saskatchewan. So I've seen all the other employees learn and grow. And I think that's so rewarding. Now, on the flip side, people can also be very challenging.
Right.
There are 8 billion people, I think, on this planet, 8 billion personalities.
Right.
Not everyone's going to get along.
Yeah.
That's just fact.
Yeah.
So what you have to do, you have to learn how to
Navigate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You compromise, you work together on things. Even if you don't necessarily agree on things, you can still be respectful and professional.
Right.
One thing that I thought was very interesting is quite a few of my team members are not born in Canada. A lot of them have had very successful careers in other countries. When they come here, though, there's cultural differences. And navigating some of these were very interesting things I take for granted. They were worried and anxious about.
Right.
One example, I had a team member that was very sick. And they said, Aaron, I'm worried I won't get a day off. I said, holy cow, you're sick. I see your doctor's note. Like, it was a serious ailment. I said, go, take as much time off as you need, get better. No one needs you being sick around you. You got to look after yourself and your loved ones first.
Yeah.
And they were so appreciative, but they said, oh, back home, if I took sick time like this, I may not have a job. I thought, holy smokes, so different. So just learning to navigate those cultural differences was, it took some time.
Yeah. I might be very vulnerable actually accepting this, but I actually had the same mentality. So I understand where people are coming from. And sometimes it can be very hard, for them to even adjust. So the fact that, you take the time to understand them, see where they're coming from, I think that's where your role comes into place, So I think really pinpointing that early on helps to reduce the conflicts as quick as possible. So I really agree with that. You mentioned a lot about growing. I want to ask, what does growth mean to you? What do you think, if you had to define growth, maybe in your own words, in your own way, what do you think that is?
Chasing curiosity. As I mentioned, I love learning, growth, but it usually stems from a place of curiosity. Why does that work that way? A great example is I have an electrical engineering background, but I've done a lot of hydraulic analysis in my career. That's very odd.
Yeah.
But one of the sites I was working at, they said, "Can you do this?" I said, "Yeah, I can." And I just followed my curiosity. And it's like, oh, this is actually really cool, very interesting.
Right.
And I think just having that open-mindedness and willingness to learn, I think that's crucial. Right. Again, not only for professional growth, but personal growth as well.
Right.
Because in my opinion, if you're not learning, you'll atrophy. And that's not something I want. I think that's something most people don't want.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Very much so. You've had a lot of experience in your career. Maybe you should ask, what do you think are going to be the trends in the next decade or so, whether that be in the mining industry or the industry that you're specifically revolving around your work on? What do you think are the trends going to look like, just from your experience and your exposure?
Trends.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, lots of industries are talking about automation, technology, making equipment run automatically, etc. But I think, as with most trends, there's highs and lows. So right now, I think this automation trend is on a high, but I think it will start to peter off and kind of come back low. So what I foresee actually in the next, say, 10 years, there'll be a higher demand for trades workers. Because right now, everyone wants to get into the latest and greatest, most exciting thing. So there'll be a surplus of engineers, of technologists. And I think there will be a high demand for tradespeople.
Right.
But I do see this trend continuing. I just see it slowing down a little bit. Especially right now, we have a lot of excitement with AI, right? Such a big talking point. If we start down this path, we'll be here all night.
Hours.
Oh, I love the topic. It's so interesting, so philosophical. But I think that hype will also slow down.
Right.
And it'll become a tool that we use. But then, what then?
Yeah.
Once it's implemented, what's the next step? Is there a next step? Again, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole right now, but I see that trend changing a little bit and going back to the blue collar type of work.
I agree. I was talking to my coworker at work. We're all from the IT department, right? So I was like, oh, I don't know where this field is going to take us, in the next 5-10 years. Like we're at a state in our career where we're very early on in our career where we don't know where we're going to go next and where this is going to take us. And he told me, he was like, you know what, Karen? He's like, either way, we're going to be fine. We'll be sitting in a restaurant with a cup of coffee in our hand, and we'll be like, we passed through this. And that's when we're going to be proud of ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there'll always be opportunities. They're just going to look differently.
Yeah, I think so too.
The opportunities I found myself in the last, say, 5 years, I didn't even think about that 10 years ago.
Right.
10 years ago, I was doing blue collar type work with my hands. And I think as long as you're willing to put in the hard work, effort, get your hands dirty from time to time, you'll always have opportunities.
I think so too. And I also think we're all in this together, right? Like none of us know what's coming in the next 5-10 years. We're in this together. It's just those who will choose to adjust and be more flexible to this will be the ones that will succeed, if I could say that. But yeah, very much agreed. What do you think are your advices for future engineers, if you were to give some?
Talk to people. Be respectful. Really look at your social skills. I think my best moments in life, career and personal, have come from the people around me, from those I interact with. And if you don't interact with people, you might miss out on some very amazing things.
Right.
Trust everyone with respect. As I mentioned before, operators have taught me more in my career than engineers. And I know that's not necessarily a common viewpoint. Listen to them. Take what they're saying. Learn from it.
Right.
And I think if you do those things, you're going to have a very fulfilling, not only career, but life as well.
One vulnerable question, maybe I'm putting you on spot, but
Okay.
have you ever felt uncertain in your career? And if you did, what did you do to navigate that?
Lots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you know what imposter syndrome is.
Yeah, of course.
I have that.
Yeah.
Definitely do.
Right.
Even people tell me, Aaron, you're doing fine. I sometimes think, am I doing fine?
Till this day, like you still do?
For sure I
Okay.
do. Lots. But I think that's natural. As I said, I'm in this new position now I didn't have any formal training for. I don't have any local mentors. It could be hard.
Yeah.
So I do have imposter syndrome, but take it as an opportunity to learn more. Hey, I know I may not be the best at this. What can I do? Right now I'm taking a course through Edwards to improve my leadership abilities because that's something I want to polish.
Right.
So that's okay to not be certain on your career or your career path. It's okay to feel imposter syndrome. Most of my engineering friends feel the exact same way. I think it's way more common than people realize. People are just afraid and ashamed to talk about it. But I think the only shameful thing is that we don't talk about it.
Right. Yeah. What do you think we can do further, actually? Like, as a society, what do you think we should do further to really look into this issue of imposter syndrome a little bit more? Because me as a young person, if I can say that.
You are a young person.
Thank you. Okay, I'll say in my early 20s, if I could say that. For the longest time, like I always felt that imposter syndrome only comes in your early career. And the fact that it's coming from you, it kind of, it gives me a lot of inspiration, and it tells me a lot that, you can feel this at any point in your career. But what do you think us as a society we can do to improve ourselves? Do you think we should talk about it more? And if so, who do you think should talk about it more?
I think the biggest thing we can do as a society is stop finger pointing, stop blaming. It's okay to make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes, but you know what I'm proud of? I own up to my mistake. I say, hey, I was wrong. Let me do better. Or hey, I was wrong. Let me fix that. And I think if people are willing to own up to their mistakes, solve them, and acknowledge them, and not try to pass the blame, then I think the stigma would disappear, or at least be minimized to some degree. And then people would feel more comfortable to talk about it.
True.
And I found my team members that we've talked about very personal things. As I mentioned, my coworker who was very sick. When you have that level of openness, the relationship gets stronger. So I think that's the biggest thing we need to do. Stop chastising people when they're wrong. Just help them learn, help them fix it, and take ownership and accountability.
I agree with that. I think back in the day, for example, there wasn't a lot of advocacy for mental health, for example. Now we advocate for these things. Now we have those platforms that people can go out to. So I think really talking about it, whether that be imposter syndrome, depression, mental health, or whatever that is, right? Like if people talked about these things more, whether it be through podcasts or whatever, talk shows or whatever, like make their own medium and talk about it, make people feel more comfortable, I think that would really help. I think that's always the step one.
I agree. The only shameful, embarrassing thing about mental health is the fact that we're not talking about it.
Yes, very much so. I agree on that. You did say you were adventurous. So to learn a little bit more about you, what do you think is the most adventurous thing you've done so far?
Oh my.
Is there so many?
Yes, I've been very lucky with life. I've done a lot of amazing things, but I'll just tell you about one of my most recent ones because it's actually relevant to this conversation. Back in February, I flew to Switzerland to meet an old friend. This friend started a charity and was doing a project in Kenya. So then I flew with her to Kenya to execute this project. She needed an engineer on her team, so I volunteered to help. This project was to create a water kiosk to supply this small Kenyan community with fresh drinking water.
Oh, I love that, yeah.
So this community is about 4,000 people. They have one source of water. The water was brown, it was stagnant, it was dirty. People are dying of the disease. So she managed to fundraise money and the project was executed and it's well on its way. In about another month, this community of 4,000 people will have fresh drinking water.
Love that.
So that's been my latest adventure.
And that's their only source of water, you're saying? To shower, to drink, to cook, everything?
And get this, Karen. So this part of Kenya is in a drought right now. And if this water source completely dries up, which it's slated to this year, the next closest body of water is 20 kilometers away one way.
Wow.
Now, these people, unfortunately, it's a community that doesn't have a lot of extra resources. So these people don't have cars, they don't have horses, they don't have donkeys, they don't have motorcycles, they walk. Can you imagine walking 40 kilometers for water? So that's why this project was near and dear to my friend. And I thought, wow, if I can be a small part of this, please let me help. And I was fortunate enough, she needed some of my technical resources from the electrical side, my project management skills as well. And we've been working together on that since February.
That's such a noble deed. And I'm so glad that you've been able to use your skills to do that. I think it's very rare that, people get these opportunities. And I'm so glad that you've done that. Because our podcast is also a platform. If you were to tell people anything that you want to pass a message, anything that you want to convey, whether that be in the engineering side or even like life advice, what would that be?
I think it goes for both the professional engineering side and personal life. Help others. I think there's no better way for self-fulfillment than to help others. You build stronger connections, relations, and who doesn't feel good helping?
Right. I agree very much so. Before I even say any further, I want to say thank you so much, Aaron, for coming to this podcast. You don't know how much this means to me. This means so much. We chatted in my first year. I've come very far. You've come very far.
That was 3 years ago, was it?
3 years, 4 years ago almost, I want to say.
Holy smokes. Yeah, it's been a while.
3-4 years ago. I know you've come very far. I know I've maybe. So this means so much. I think it's like a full circle. I met you at the beginning of my undergraduate program, and now I'm kind of meeting you towards the end. You don't know how much this means to me. This really means a lot. If I had to say thank you, I think thank you is a very small word for me to express what this means and what this episode means to me. So 2 gift cards for you. This one's from Hedgehog Bakery. Amazing. They do amazing bakery. They have cardamom rolls, cinnamon rolls, lots of different cakes. They do a variety of different things. They do Danish rolls too, I think.
They have a lot of classic Iranian dishes. I love Hedgehog.
Yes, they're amazing. And then this is Delish by Tish. They do lovely cheesecakes, lovely soups. You can follow their Instagram pages. They're amazing. You can follow us on Instagram too if you'd like to, if you have Instagram. They're amazing places, and there are 2 sponsors. We also have other sponsors like Westgate Books, Rayla Cafe, Physiotherapy and Wellness, and also Shop Stop. So there are sponsors as well. And yeah, before I move and say anything else, do you want to say anything to the audience or any last words for the video?
I just want to say thank you to Karen for inviting me here to have a chat with you today. I really enjoyed it. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about what I do. I enjoy talking about industry, the types of careers you can have, what we do on the day-to-day. It's just the automation world, the electrical engineering world. There's so many opportunities in this province, and I just hope some more students can take advantage of them.
Love that. Love that. I'm going to say thank you guys actually for watching towards the end of this episode. This means a lot. And I really hope that you found this episode to be one of the most greatest ones of all times. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always leave it in the comment section. And maybe Aaron and I will help to co-reply because we're very good host and guest duo, I feel. And with that, we're going to say bye.